Greetings, fellow Beyonders. I am your humble host and scribe, Sven, and this is Beyond the Worlds Beyond. The primary purpose of this series will be exploring the lore and story within these campaigns. In this episode, we'll be looking at the 13th episode of The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One, titled Of the Gentle Sea. We'll be doing a quick summary of the episode and then diving into the lore questions that it raises and those that it answers. We return as the sword descends and Naram is finally free. Unfortunately, things are not so lucky for Ursulon, who, now ascended and leveled up as a paladin, finds himself trapped in Naram's stead as the apparatus begins to disperse his very being. Ursulon, content with his honorable and heroic actions, considers this an acceptable price to pay for freeing the Great Spirit in a fashion that saves Port Talon as well. Naram, of course, will not stand by and allow his little brother to perish in such a manner, but hesitates for a moment in the decision to be merciful and sacrifice his own life, or to allow freeing Ursulon to result in the destruction of the apparatus and a loss of lives. Ame, despite being a distance away, senses this hesitation and pushes Naram towards accepting that the consequences of destruction were brought by those who first trapped him. Thus decided, he begins to destroy the apparatus, eventually flinging it into the deep sea and freeing Ursulon. Moro and his wizards do not stand by for this, of course, and take flight to attempt to stop Naram. They are beaten to their arrival by Abjur Galani, who manages to, almost, impact Naram with a spell. Naram, in turn, spares Galani as he sends a massive wave that would have killed her, but instead only washes away the salt fires in the Witchfire Wastes, though things are not so lucky for the soldiers stationed there who meet their ends. He informs Galani, to her surprise, that his wife will soon arrive, and it is better that she prepares Port Talon. Galani attempts to rally the forces in defense, and has some success with the soldiers, bolstered by Suvi, who is still within the city, but the Chantry wizards obey Moro and follow him into the depths via a whirlpool he has created. At the wall, Suvi arrives with the Azure Battalion as the Kudzu Stranglers begin to crest the defenses. Sergeant Lavlo falls swiftly, and, putting herself in harm's way to protect others, Suvi is also badly wounded. This self-sacrifice does lead to hesitance on the part of the attacking Green, however, and with a strangled voice, Suvi greets them with Naram. Descending to face Naram, Moro strikes out with a spell that does do some harm to the Great Spirit, which spurs Ursulon into action. He tackles the mage, dragging him into the water and breaking his concentration on his spell. This causes the whirlpool to collapse and for the waves to claim those wizards who followed him in his folly, and our episode ends for the week. Only one more episode to go to finish out this arc. Our children are finally growing up and leveling up, but let's see what fate awaits. Before we start asking new questions, let's take a look at the ones we've asked before and see which, if any, we now have answers for. We had, of course, pondered the fates of Naram, Ursulon, and the city. While the fate of the city is still outstanding in terms of Arima's wrath, it does seem like Suvi may have slowed the onslaught, and hopefully long enough for Naram to reunite with his wife and end the assault. I am pleased to see my reasoning in believing that Naram was not asking for a mercy killing holds up, and that the target was indeed the spear. I'm also thankful that it seems that, though described in the moment as sundered, it seems that Naram was able to return Seedcomber to its whole state as we see him wielding it later. I had wondered if Moro was going to notice that Subi had stolen his book, but it seems that, whether he did or not, that outcome is likely to no longer matter. Though I must express my continued frustration that, while Subi finally did read the book, we, the listener, still know nothing of what it contains. You vex me, Mulligan. You vex me so. We also had our third usage of Way Shadowed in terms of Ursulon's condition. So this definitely is a widely used and known term for those who are or deal with spirits. We always assumed it meant Ursula's state of being unable to return to the world of spirits, but I am somewhat surprised to learn that it is a powerful enough condition that not even a great spirit such as Naram could aid him in his return. It also cannot be entirely about having released his breath or having doubt in his honor and heroics, as he overcame those obstacles in this episode, yet the condition persists still. I will be very interested to learn exactly what it is that holds him in this place and what it will take to overcome the condition. Although this episode was more action than lore, but damn good action, so this lore hound won't complain, it did still raise one question. We have seen the decimation, if not worse than decimation, of the Imperial forces in Port Talon, and likely thus in all of Akam, since we heard of no other large bastions. We know that Port Talon has trade with Galthmai, implying some proximity. Similarly, Ruve not only had active agents, such as Emless, seeking to undermine forces on the island, but also must be near enough that those of Ruvian descent, as others on her crew were stated as being, though not part of her plot, did not give rise to any suspicion. So we have two forces, both in conflict with the Empire, with connections to and eyes upon Akam, which we know is far from the heart of the Imperium. Will either or both of these forces now make moves to invade the island while its defenses are down? Given the fact that the travel door at Silbury was, for some reason, not available to steal, is there perhaps a chance that such an invasion has actually already begun, and we're just had not reached the northern end of the island and Port Talon yet? Given the importance of Ren's cottage and whatever may lie beneath it, this could get very messy indeed if any or all of these forces also have an inkling of its nature and seek to seize it. The party has freed Naram, but I suspect that this does not necessarily herald peace and prosperity for the people of Akam anytime soon. All actions, even right ones, have consequences. That's all for this installment of Beyond the Worlds Beyond. As always, please feel free to throw your own questions and theories in the comments, as I love hearing what others latched onto. Also, please consider liking and subscribing if you have not already. If you want more Worlds Beyond Number content, you can also visit my Patreon, linked below, to find my appendix and timeline projects, all of which are free and publicly available. I've been your host, Sven, and thank you very much for listening. Farewell, for now, fellow Beyonders.